Hey there, I'm Ed Brady. I'm the CEO, president of the Home Builders Institute, and it's an honor today to be joined by Jeremy Hurley, one of our senior vice presidents, today to honor Veterans Day and military families during the Veterans Day holiday. It's a privilege for HBI to have a veterans program, a transitioning military program, and Jeremy Hurley runs our program, helped start our program with veterans and with the transitioning military. And the Home Depot Foundation fully funds the 10 military bases that we serve on. And so happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the family members that have sacrificed along with the servicemen and women in our military for their gift to us to protect America. And today, it's just a privilege to have Jeremy Hurley here. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. But we want to thank all of our staff, including those that serve in the military and the families and all the veterans throughout the country. So, Jeremy, it's a privilege to be able to have you here as a guest in this podcast. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your history?
My name's Jeremy Hurley. I'm the Senior Vice President of Program Operations for HBI. My history with HBI is a storied one in that I became an instructor first in the Brunswick Job Corps. I was an HVAC instructor. Prior to that, I was 4 years in the Marine Corps. 1161 was my MOS, Basic Refrigeration Mechanic. I then became an HVAC owner. I ran a business there in Southeast Georgia for about 13 years. I sold it. I was looking for something to do. Found HBI as an instructor, and certainly have been held lots of positions with HBI. But one of my closest to my heart was becoming a program manager at Fort Stewart, Georgia, when we started that program back in 2015. And that's kind of why we're here today, is to talk about that journey and the wonderful work that we're doing there.
Yeah. Well, as I said, thank you for your service, and it's a pleasure to serve with you in leadership of HBI. But one of my regrets was that I never served, and so I'm really privileged to work with a number of servicemen and women that work for HBI and certainly serve transitioning military and veterans throughout the country. And so, as I said earlier, the Home Depot has been just a huge part of this. You helped start this, I think, at Fort Stewart, and then expanded to Fort Carson and maybe Fort Bragg. But Home Depot has been integral in creating 10 military programs throughout the country, 5 of which were on base and actually serve on base, and 5 were right outside the gates of base. But we serve men, women in all branches, I believe. I think in Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, maybe Coast Guard, but it's just a privilege for us, and I want to thank Home Depot because we couldn't do it without them and their commitment to serving the military. Home Depot has also grown with us. As they've grown with the military program, they've grown with our Future Builders of America program. They've grown with our academies, which you also oversee. They're in our schools, as I mentioned, Future Builders of America. And so tell us a little bit about that relationship that Home Depot has in their heart and in their corporate culture to serve military throughout this country, and that partnership that we have with the Home Depot in fulfilling that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ed. I think, if we look back at the history of that program, like you mentioned, we started in Fort Stewart about 2014, maybe 2015, and we had a different funding source. The Bob Woodruff Foundation was gracious to fund us for the first 2 years, but then after that, we were kind of looking around. Okay, what's next? We love this program. We would love to grow these programs, but where do we find the resources to do that? And so, luckily, Home Depot connected with us. We certainly were very grateful for their interest, and that relationship really blossomed. And after that, they kind of gave us a charge and a mission that seemed a little overwhelming at the time.
Yeah.
They wanted 10 programs as fast as we could possibly get them, and so that's where the work began. Was to network within that DoD community, the Skillbridge community, to make those connections across those military bases. Lots of military bases, but it was kind of a first come, first serve. As soon as we could get an MOU with a particular garrison command, then we ran with that particular base. And I kept one in my back pocket at the Camp Pendleton. It took me the longest to get there. That was my number 2 after Fort Stewart, but it took the longest to get there, and that was number 10. But certainly that was a journey that we're very grateful for the Home Depot Foundation giving us that opportunity. And having that brand recognition and that connection, that validation from the Home Depot Foundation really knocked down a lot of barriers for me with those garrison command, that I could, it built some legitimacy around our brand, and gave us a little clout, I would say, and also obviously what we're most proud of is not having to charge a service member for attendance to that program. And so that definitely helped with the garrison command and DOD's approval rate of our programs when we could show up and say we're completely free to your students.
So what does that mean when other people charge for this type of program?
Some do, yeah, some do, especially 10 years ago when we were all trying to figure out the Skillbridge, and as a provider of a Skillbridge provider, we were all trying to figure that how we were going to operate these programs. And so many of them do charge post 9/11 GI Bill specifically, or charge a tuition of some sort. So us having that opportunity from the Home Depot Foundation was monumental in our ability to scale and grow, but also to sustain ourselves 10 years later with that program.
You mentioned Camp Pendleton, and once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
I think I've called you a former Marine at one point. You've corrected me. You're always a Marine. Camp Pendleton is a Marine base.
That's right.
And so I know you were stationed there. Give us a little color to what happens. How many people do we serve in these programs in those 10 military bases? What the program looks like? What is the end result of those students going through that 12-week program?
Yeah, absolutely. The number of students that we target to train in each one of those locations is around 110 or so per year per program, and so that's about 1,200 students a year or so that will train through those programs. As you stated, there's 12 weeks. Most of them are construction related trades, carpentry, electrical. We've got HVAC and plumbing in a couple of locations, but those students can come to those programs while they're on active duty. Within 180 days of their end of active service, they can apply through their chain of command, receive permission to come to the program. We screen them, vet them, enroll them in the program. They usually have maybe 30 days after they complete our 12-week program to go back to the military, transition out, do all those medical appointments, things of that nature, and then they can obviously they leave the military, and that's where we stay connected with them. And I know we're going to talk about today is sort of what makes us unique, and certainly that journey, we're with them during that journey, so we're with them while they're still on active duty, and then as soon as they get off active duty, they still got a resource with us, and so it's a lifelong relationship, and we can talk about some of those examples as well today. But that's really where the magic happens is our availability after they transition out.
And success is not only the 12-week training, as I didn't realize, and I again didn't serve, but you come out of the military many times 22 years old. You've given 4 years. And you don't necessarily, it sounds like you as an HVAC technician had a future, but many of them come out without a skill that they can market. And so this 12 weeks provides them that opportunity to get a skill that they can go out and find a job. But it is HBI's role to help place them into an industry career path, right? And I think you can tell me the percentage of success of that, but that success for us is not only the training, but placing in a career path.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're certainly proud of that. Over the 10-year lifespan of this program so far, we've achieved over an 85% job placement rate for those students who successfully complete the program and then seek employment. So we're definitely proud of that outcome. And it is an opportunity for them that they have skills. They just may not have the skills that are needed for the construction
you correct
trade.
me. They have skills, of course.
for the construction trade.
Yeah.
But where we're really blessed in this program is that these students have made a choice. So 10 years ago, there weren't many Skillbridge providers. And so sometimes when we were on these bases, we were maybe one or two options. Now they have lots of options. So when they come to us, they have made a distinct decision that construction is their next career path. So they're highly motivated when they come to our program. And so they often do lack those skills for electrical, carpentry, the trades that we train. And they need that certification. They need that next level, which we give them, is that connectivity to the industry. And then the industry takes them from there. And as you and I both know, as being from the industry, it's on-the-job training from that point on, and that's where they really gain their set of skills that are going to carry them throughout life. But without us, many of them wouldn't have an opportunity to enter the construction trade unless they went the traditional route through college. And they do. Most of them have that access to post-9/11 GI Bill, but most of the students that we get don't want that pathway. That's why they went in the military in the first place. They didn't want to go that pathway. And so, yeah, it's a blessing to be able to serve them.
You mentioned the DoD Skillbridge program. How old is that program?
It's maybe 11 years.
Yeah,
12.
so
we were in it really early.
10 or 12 years ago, the Department of Defense didn't give this opportunity, which helped create joblessness or different challenges, and we can talk about challenges for the military when they get out, but we got to give credit to the department. Now, we had a board member that was pretty involved in helping that. Can you give me a little color on that?
Yeah, you may have heard of him. General George Casey, 4-star general, was on our board of trustees, and he knew this was coming through obviously his access to the Department of Defense. He knew this Skillbridge program was being launched, and he helped make that initial connection there at Fort Stewart to get us in the door early on. And like I said before, we really figured it out with the Department of Defense and many of the Skillbridge providers and through the TAP classes and those folks on the military base. But you're exactly right. Most of those prior to that, like myself, prior to 9/11, there weren't any resources like this available. There's a couple of hours before you left, maybe 30 days before you got out. You had a couple of hours of resume building and some job search techniques, and that was it. And so the Department of Labor definitely saw that it's not only the right thing to do by these service members, but it's also a good recruitment tool that a service member who did come into the program or come into the military, maybe they went infantry, but the military gave them an opportunity while they were still on active duty to build a set of skills. And that's a great recruitment story from when that person is successful and goes back out into the civilian workforce.
Yeah, and so they're in the military for 4 years. They have to get a good paying job because not only do they pay the military, they also provide housing. And so we're attempting to get these individuals, living wage plus jobs. And in the construction industry, you start out maybe a little less, but you have so much opportunity. And I have the privilege of going around, as you do, to many of these programs and talking to the soldiers and sailors, Marines, and asking them, why are they here? What do they want to do? And I asked one specific question about starting your own business. Who wants to be an entrepreneur? Who wants to start their own business? And you have the distinct, you and I have that in common, that we owned our own businesses, and every single student raises their hand. And I think that's something that is unique to the program, that after you're in the military and you're somewhat controlled, you're under command, and everybody raises their hand because they want to control their own destiny. And so we see entrepreneurs coming out of this program, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you did that, coming out of the military, and took advantage of your skills and talents that you learned and created a pretty vibrant business. Yeah. Anybody that can sell their business is pretty successful. And so I just give a lot of credit to our instructors. I've always promoted our instructors about the way they are the front lines. They're the ones that not only train, but they're mentoring, they're coaching, they're providing life skills at the same time. And so I think it's a credit to not only you individually to start your own business, but to many of our students that want to go in. I want to digress for a second because I want to talk about Veterans Day. Again, I didn't serve. I had some family members in the military, and my parents always made sure that how respectful we were for those that served. And that hasn't always been our history in this country, right? But I think today we really honor the veterans, those that have sacrificed and given their time and effort and years of service. And so Veterans Day has always been kind of sacred to me. We'd go to the parades and we'd celebrate and we'd carry the flag, and but that's from a non-veteran, and I know sometimes you, frankly, underplay your service to this country. But what from a Marine, from somebody that was in the service, what's Veterans Day mean to you and the people that served our country?
Yeah, it's honor. From the Marine Corps standpoint, it's honor, courage, and commitment. That's our ethos, right? Semper Fi, always faithful. It's really giving honor to those who served before us. That's what makes the Marine Corps specifically. I can only speak for the Marine Corps. That's what makes us successful. And is that ambition, that desire, that never quit, to never let the man to your left or right down. And certainly those that came before us are paved the way, and we owe that level of respect to them and to honor their legacy. So to me, it's really about honor to those that came before us, and certainly, as you stated, most veterans are going to be relatively humble for that purpose, because we never feel. I'm not saying not everybody, but many of us never feel adequate. That there's always that piece that we're trying to live up to, which is what makes us unique. But yeah, it's really about honoring those that came before us.
Well, and I always, in any of these opportunities, I want to promote women in our industry and women in the service, and it's probably a similar ratio to men and women in the services as it is in the construction industry, unfortunately. But we pride ourselves, and I take great pleasure, having 3 daughters, seeing the students, the woman students, the female students that are in our programs that are taking advantage of this opportunity. And we'll get into some stories, but one of my most memorable stories is one of the programs I visited. A soldier was in the program, and you also, HBI services military spouses if there's openings. And this woman was in the program, and I asked her why and what her history was. She said, "I'm not in the service. My husband's getting transferred to Germany, and I felt like I needed a skill that I could do something while we were in Germany for 2 years." And I think I've got many of those stories where you're serving military family members and spouses, and I think that's a remarkable accomplishment, again, because large percentage are men. We serve a lot of military spouses, females, in our program. And I should say, in this industry, we should be open-armed to welcoming women into the industry. And I think we're making, in our academies, for instance, we serve 30% of our students are women. So we're trying to make a small impact on that, to make sure that the industry diversifies their workforce. So tell me a couple of your favorite stories, or a couple of your successes that you wear not on your sleeve, because you don't wear anything on your sleeve, but what in your heart, tell me a couple of good stories that you have about who we serve.
Yeah, it's hard with over 10,000 students or so we've served so far, to pick one out. But certainly the one that comes nearest and dearest to my heart is from the military. From the Job Corps program. Right? I trained a student there in the HVAC program, and convinced him and brought him along the way to enter the Marine Corps. And so my most proud moment
from Job Corps.
From Job Corps. And
wow.
So my most proud moment as an HBI employee was going up to Paris Island to watch him walk across that parade deck and to take a photo with him and his family. at graduation day. So that's certainly near and dear to my heart. And of course, just like all of our other instructors, lifelong relationship with that student, many students. But in the military program, the list is too long to even start with all of the successes. We've got a service member who graduated one of our programs, and I think maybe 8 years later, wasn't long ago, we made a connection through a fundraising effort that we were doing, and found out that he's an actual president of a home builders association up in Tennessee. So you just never know what the set of skills that we're giving them, where that pathway will take them once we can get them into the industry. But we're certainly proud that many of those service members have made a tremendous impact. And then a lot of, if you can look at our social media posts, that we do such a wonderful job sharing those stories. It's that community involvement that those programs in particular have such an opportunity to get those transition service members out of our program off base during the day to a Habitat for Humanity type site, or for any type of volunteer organization that might need help. We're able to go out in the community and help those, and that population loves to serve anyway, and so there's just so many heartwarming opportunities to share with you about home rehabs and handicap ramps and building ramps and putting some roof back on houses when it came through the Fort Bragg area a few years back, and it's rewarding work for sure.
Well, so service-minded, military service-minded, and I think, again, one of the very most proud things that I do in my job is we hire veterans, and I see that our veterans that are employed at HBI, instructors, managers, and so forth, are just dedicated to give back and to serve. And so we talk a little bit about your staff and their impact, whether they're in the former in the service or not, their commitment to veterans in this country.
Yeah, I think in these particular 10 programs, it's evident that most of the staff that we have are connected to the military in some way. They're either a veteran, or they're a dependent, or they're somehow connected to the military in most instances, and it's been that way since we started. And that relationship, especially for those veterans that are instructors for us now, they've been there, and we have coordinators too. The coordinators are the ones who make the connection on base, recruit them into the program, mentor them while they're with us, and then of course stay connected with them afterwards. So having that group of staff who have been there and maybe, like myself, didn't have these opportunities when they transitioned out, to really be there to promote the opportunity to the students. They've been there as far as the point of life where they're at when they're with us is very vulnerable time. They are in flux. Their life is about to be completely changed. They probably have a house and kids and a wife and or a husband and many other responsibilities. And now they're about to take them all, who knows, 2,000 miles away, back home and start life over. And so they're super nervous. So for us to have staff who have been there and done that and can truly mentor them into what they should and shouldn't do, it's an impactful relationship and it breaks the barrier down for the student, that we're not just some outsider telling them what they should do. The person who's telling them has actually lived before.
It. Yeah. That's huge, and I've seen that mentoring go on with some of our military staff that give back in that way. And you mentioned challenges. I mean, I think anybody coming out of high school and coming out of college have challenges, but military is a bit different in the sense that, they've been dependent on the military payroll. They've been dependent on command telling them what to do, healthcare and all those things. So some of the challenges are pretty significant coming out of the military, which I know you went through, but hopefully I know we are helping in those cases. We have some success funds that if a graduate needs tools or needs transportation or we can help them along that way. And I know you're very proud of that. I want to just mention that the mission that we have goes beyond just transitioning military, those in the military, and I attended one of our programs, and there was a 65-year-old veteran there, and I asked him why he was there, and he said, well, jokingly, he said, my wife kicked me out of the house, and I needed to go to do something, but in reality, he was learning the skills because he owned some properties, and he was his own property manager and couldn't find plumbers and electricians. And so these skills are not necessarily just for the young.
Yeah.
And you see 20-year veterans coming into our programs after 20-year soldiers that become veterans after our programs. So, we could talk all day about the successes of our transitioning military program. We couldn't do this without the Home Depot Foundation and other funders that contribute to our veterans program. And I want to thank our partners for allowing us the opportunity to serve. And I want to give you one last chance to just, if you would, what does it mean to you? What do we need in regards to resources and people that we're always looking for to make sure that this program's successful?
Yeah, as you know, resources are everything for us. So as you stated, that Student Success Fund is really important for us. We're blessed to have the Home Depot Foundation as our baseline for funding. We do have opportunity to grow these programs in other markets, in other bases. We have interest from our existing programs to expand. So there's always that opportunity for sponsorship to continue to grow the existing portfolio. I think from an industry perspective, one thing that's very important for us is for the industry to wrap their arms around these students when we train them to engage with us, to come to our programs. If like Ed said, your 5 of them are on base and 5 of them are off base. So the 5 that are off base, we can get you those pretty easy. Engage with us. Come to those programs, provide lunch and learns, for example, resume building, whatever you can do to show those students that the industry wants them and needs them. They will engage with you, I promise. I've been there hundreds of times in those engagements, and those students will talk your ear off because they're so anxious to get into the industry, and they don't know what they don't know, and so they're going to ask lots of questions. And it's rewarding for every employer that we've had to come to those programs. But I encourage that sort of involvement, right? And we're not necessarily training them where they're going to go to work. And so if it doesn't matter if we've got a program near you or not, those transition service members go to all 50 states. And so if there's an opportunity for a job and you're looking for a veteran to fill that spot, we've not only got a veteran, we've got someone who's still on active duty who would probably be willing to take that job if you can wait 30 days or so for them to start. But the employment opportunities are certainly where we need the most help.
Yeah. Well, it's a privilege to sit here with you in our HBI uniforms that you and I both have. But I just, one last comment about the servicemen and women in this country on this special time of year in the month of November to be military family honored, and to the servicemen and women that we serve and that serve our country. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your commitment to protecting us, and thank you for listening. If you want to get involved, if you want to contribute, if you want to find out more information about programs, you can go to hbi.org and look at our transition military program, our academies that serve all kinds of populations 18 and over, our Schools to Skills program, our Future Builders of America program. If you want to get into this industry but you know nothing about it, HBI is a resource for you to reach out to help you look at the future and get into the industry. So I think it's okay to say Happy Veterans Day, but celebrate Veterans Day. Thank a former or a service man or woman that have served this country on this special day and this special month. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.